Hey everyone, it's Mallory here with All About Cats. So since we released our video on the best cat litter back in the spring of 2020, I've had the opportunity to try a lot more litter and get a lot more experience. So in this week's video, I'm going to be giving you an updated list of my recommendations for the best cat litter you can buy. So stay tuned for my top 10 recommendations and to find out which litter might be the best choice for you. So again, you may have seen our video on the top 13 best cat litters on the market published last spring, and since the time that video was released, I've gotten the opportunity to try a lot more cat litter. So I looked back at my records, and it seems that I've reviewed about 36 different cat litter products over the last couple of years. So I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to try a lot of cat litter. And besides that, I've spent hours researching cat litter, reading hundreds and hundreds of customer reviews, and doing a couple of little tests to figure out which types of litter my cats seem to like the best. And based on all of that research and experience, I'm going to be bringing you my 2021 picks for the best cat litter you can buy. So as always, feel free to use the video navigation to jump to any particular section that interests you. I'm going to be labeling all of my top 10 recommendations so that you can identify which of these litters is going to have the qualities that you're looking for. And of course, you can click the links in the description if you want to check any of those products out for yourself. So with that introduction out of the way, let's jump into my top 10 recommendations. So just like last year, my number one recommendation is going to be Dr. Elsey's Precious Cat Ultra Clumping Cat Litter. Now the reason why this litter takes the number one spot for a second year in a row is because I haven't found any clumping clay litter that manages to do pretty much everything that a litter should do quite as well as this Dr. Elsey's product does. It's just an all-around strong litter, and it comes at a nice economical cost. The litter is, compared to other clumping clay litters, pretty low dust, so I would pour it into the litter box and not see a huge plume of dust, which is a really welcome change when you're looking at clumping clay litter. And it seems to perform pretty well when it is in the box. So this litter forms hard, easy to scoop clumps, which means you can easily get the waste out of the litter box and keep everything clean. I don't find too much sticking in the litter box, assuming that you have enough litter in there. And I find that this yields a nice, relatively odor-free litter box. The odor control is not absolute. No litter is going to deliver absolute odor control, but it is quite good. My biggest gripe with this particular litter is probably its weight. So again, it has these medium-sized granules and they're quite dense. So the litter itself is very heavy. And I found that when scooping with a heavy metal scoop, it can get a little bit noticeable that it's heavy. While that heaviness can be kind of uncomfortable when you're scooping, it also means that tracking and scatter are going to be limited. So that's a good side to having a relatively heavy, dense cat litter. Overall, this is a litter that I think is going to work well in a lot of different households, and which I think a lot of cats will be comfortable using. Clumping clay litter of this type is generally a crowd pleaser, and I think that it's definitely the case with this Dr. Elsey's litter. Another crowd-pleasing aspect of this litter is its price. So at about 47 cents per pound, this is a pretty economical litter. It's significantly less expensive than a lot of the other cat litters that I'm going to be reviewing here. While that Dr. Elsey's litter is definitely on the cheaper side, if you're really focused on getting a budget-friendly litter, I would recommend opting for Fresh Steps Simply Unscented cat litter. So at about 38 cents per pound, this is one of the cheaper cat litter products on the market. It's very easy to find in grocery stores and pet specialty retailers, and I find that it performs pretty well. So when I poured the litter into the litter box, it emitted a big plume of dust, and in that sense, I can't really call this a cat-friendly litter. This type of clumping clay litter is going to emit crystalline silica dust, and we know that when inhaled in larger quantities over longer periods of time, this type of dust can cause respiratory issues and is considered carcinogenic. But my cats really, really like this litter. I found that my cats continually gravitated towards this litter. They seemed to really enjoy its texture, the way that it felt under the paws. Because it's unscented, it's also going to be nice and cat friendly, and it's human friendly as well. I found that this litter creates firm, easy to scoop clumps that allow you to get everything out of the litter box. There was a little bit of scatter, but nothing extraordinary. And of course you can control this with your litter box choice. And overall, I found that this was just an overall strong cat litter that does pretty much everything that you would want a litter to do. Now, our third recommendation is going to be my favorite litter for odor control, and that litter is Everclean's Extra Strength Unscented cat litter. Now, Everclean litter is a little bit more expensive than most other clumping clay products, but once it gets into the litter box, I find that it offers excellent performance. This is a nice hard clumping clay litter that is very easy to scoop. Cats really like it. And it offers really good odor control. Some of the best odor control that I've seen out of any clumping clay litter. Again, this is a pretty dense and heavy cat litter, which could be a negative for some people, but at the same time, you're going to see a lot less tracking and scatter than you would with a lightweight litter. Again, this litter is definitely on the expensive side at about $1.50 per pound. If you want to use a silica gel crystal litter, I would recommend choosing Fresh Steps crystal cat litter. Fresh Steps crystals have some really nice qualities. One is that it has a moderate crystal size. This crystal size allows each crystal to absorb more moisture, and that allows it to last for longer. Another nice thing about this litter is that it's relatively low dust. I found that a lot of silica gel litters tend to produce huge plumes of really irritating dust. Not so with this one. There's a little bit of dust, but nothing extreme. In my testing, it did a good job of controlling odors. It's pretty easy to maintain, of course, and I've seen similar stories in customer reviews. Overall, this seems to be a nice, effective product. Of course, silica gel is a little bit more expensive than clay cat litter, so this product costs about $1.72 per pound, but remember that you're most likely going to be going through it more slowly than you would a clay cat litter, so you might use about 5 pounds per month with one cat, adding up to something closer to $10 per month. Now, if you're looking for a plant-based or biodegradable, sometimes referred to as natural cat litter, then I would recommend Sustainably Yours Multi-Cat Plus cat litter. So this is a very, very fine-grained cat litter made from corn and cassava. I found that when pouring it into the box, there's a little bit of dust, nothing really significant. It settles quite quickly. And once it's in the box, this litter performs quite well. I found that it creates really firm, cohesive clumps that are very easy to clean out of the litter box. And I found that the odor control is pretty good. It's not quite as good as that of some of these clumping clay litters that I'm ranking at the top of this list, but it is significantly better than what I've seen out of a lot of plant-based litter products. The biggest downside of this litter is the amount of scatter that it does. Because the litter is so fine and so lightweight, it tends to really scatter outside of the litter box, and it can be a little bit difficult to clean all of that scatter up because the litter is so fine. So this litter costs about $1.90 per pound, which is kind of middle of the road for a plant-based cat litter. But what I found is that because it creates such small clumps, you're probably going to use a little bit less of it. So it could end up being a little bit more affordable than other plant-based cat litter products. In addition to plant-based litters that kind of follow the clumping clay model, you're also going to see pellet style products. A lot of people are starting to turn to pine pellets as an alternative to traditional litter. And if you're considering this, I would suggest avoiding the cat litter aisle altogether and opting for equine bedding pellets. Now, there's some question about the safety of pine pellets in general, including those marketed for cat litter, because these pellets may contain pine oil. Now, it's recommended that you look for litter that's been kiln dried in order to remove these pine oils and make the litter safe to use. I contacted Feline Pine and they said that their litter undergoes this process. And I know that other pellets made for horse bedding also undergo this process. So it doesn't hurt to contact the manufacturer before you choose any particular litter, whether you're getting it from Tractor Supply or another local farm and ranch supply store. But the reason why I would recommend these horse bedding pellets instead of a cat product is because they're seemingly essentially the exact same thing, but at a much, much better price. So Feline Pine costs about 42 cents per pound, and equine bedding pellets, which you can get at any farm and ranch store, are going to cost about 15 cents per pound. So it's a significant difference. Now, my next recommendation is going to be the best litter for cats who are having some litter box issues. So first off, litter box avoidance is generally not a matter of a cat not liking the litter that they have. Litter can help, but it's seldom the full picture. So if your cat hasn't been using the litter box, whether they're a kitten or an older cat, you're going to want to first rule out any mental or physical issues that could be causing this. And once you've either ruled those out or started resolving them, you can also pull in a good litter to help you out. And in that case, you can use Dr. Elsey's Cat Attract. So this is a basic clumping clay litter, very similar to the Dr. Elsey's litter that made it to the #1 position on this list, but it contains an herbal cat attractant. And while I was initially skeptical of this litter, I found that it was very appealing to my cats. And I've also seen really good reviews of this litter from other people. But how well does this litter perform? So first off, the litter is quite dusty. I noticed that it emitted a large plume of dust when I poured it into the litter box. So not a good litter if you're trying to avoid dust. In terms of clumping performance and odor control, I found that it did both quite well. It created nice cohesive clumps, and I didn't notice a lot of odor in the litter box, even though my cats were using this one so heavily. Scatter was about what you would expect for a litter of this type. Nothing extreme, but it was still present. There was still some scattering happening. At about 74 cents per pound, this is a little bit more expensive than your typical clumping clay, but still one of the more moderately priced options on this particular list. Now our next recommendation is my top pick for kittens. If you have a kitten who's under about 3 or 4 months of age, you're going to want to think about choosing either a non-clumping litter of any variety or some kind of soft clumping litter like a plant-based clumping litter. Hard clumping clay litter can expand up to 15 times its original size when it comes into contact with moisture, and there is a theory that if a kitten ingests some clumping clay, either while they're grooming themselves or because they're kind of curious, it could lead to some serious issues. It's generally considered best to steer clear of clumping clay and opt for something else. And for those of you who are doing that, I would recommend Yesterday's News cat litter. Now, this litter would not be my top recommendation for basically any other category. It doesn't really perform all that well. I have found that while it does control odor a little bit, it's not a good odor control litter. It doesn't clump, and it's not all that absorbent. Moisture tends to build up in there and it can get kind of nasty. You're going to want to change it out regularly, and at about 63 cents per pound, it's going to add up to being a moderately priced litter. Overall, a decent choice for kittens, but not something that I would want to use long term. Now, our next recommendation also comes from Yesterday's News, and it's going to be an appropriate choice for cats with sensitive paws. So if your cat feels uncomfortable using a clay litter or even a typical plant-based litter, and they need something softer underneath their paws, then I would recommend Yesterday's News clumping cat litter. I find this litter really interesting. It has a soft, fluffy texture that is very, very soft to the touch. When I touch it, when my cats touch it, it's very soft, light, and lofty. Now, like the other Yesterday's News product I mentioned here, it's not really a high-performance litter. Its odor control is not that great. It does not clump all that well, although it does create some clumps, so you can get a little bit of that waste out of the litter box. And there's also going to be a fair amount of scatter and tracking, depending on which type of litter box you use. So while it is a little bit more expensive up front at $1.09 per pound, you're going to be using fewer pounds of it over time, so it ends up being kind of a moderately priced cat litter. Now, my final recommendation is going to be my top pick for people who don't like cleaning out the litter box, and it is the Tidy Cats Breeze litter system. So it's not just a litter, it's a full system. The zeolite pellets allow urine to pass through the graded tray of this litter box system and collect on a puppy pad down below. And because the pellets are made from deodorizing zeolite and act as a desiccant, they help to dry out the stool that remains on the top level. Overall, this is a pretty low maintenance option. It works a little bit like silica gel where you're picking off the feces, but I found that it's a little bit more low maintenance because you have this full system kind of working for you. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this litter or the Tidy Cats Breeze system in general. It's good for some people, but in my home, it just isn't the best fit. My cats don't really like the way that the pellets feel. They tend to scatter quite a bit. They're kind of difficult to clean up, and they're also pretty expensive. So at $2.14 per pound, This is one of the more expensive options on the market. But with all of that being said, I know that a lot of people really like this system, and it could certainly be a good option for a certain type of person. So definitely worth considering. So that's about it for my top 10 recommendations for the best cat litter you can buy in 2021. I hope that you found it helpful. If you're interested in learning more about any of the products mentioned here, you can check out the links in the description. I'll put links to all of these products there so you can check them out for yourself. While you're in the description, you will also see links to additional resources on the All About Cats website, and you'll also see a link to the All About Cats community. Now, I read through the comments on YouTube all the time, and I make every effort to respond to any questions. But if you would like to extend your questions to a larger pool of people and communicate directly with our expert moderators, you might want to check out the All About Cats community. It's kind of like the YouTube comment section, except you can communicate directly with experts like veterinarians and behaviorists who are able to talk to you about your cat's specific issues. Anyway, as always, I hope that you got some value out of this video. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button, and if you're interested in more product reviews, buyer's guides, and information on all things cats, please subscribe to the All About Cats channel. If you click the notification bell, you'll get the news every time we release a new upload, and with new videos coming out at least once a week, there's always something to look forward to and always something to learn. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye.